Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Welcome to this jazz lesson on the classic standard I Got Rhythm by George Gershwin, written way back in the 1930s. This was one of the most special songs in the jazz repertoire, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Hey, there's a PDF that goes along with this, so make sure you download that and have it out in front of you as we're going to be going through all the different aspects of this song. We're going to learn the melody, learn the chords, the basic chords, the advanced chords, where to play it on guitar, and I'm going to show you also lick of the week and some other concepts in soloing, as well as a basic jazz arrangement and a more advanced jazz arrangement of this great song. So make sure you have that PDF out in front of you. All right, let's get into it. Hey, what does I Got Rhythm and Cottontail by Duke Ellington, Salt Peanuts by Dizzy Gillespie, Rhythm-a-Ning by Thelonious Monk, Anthropology by Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, Lester Leaps In by Lester Young, Oleo by Sonny Rollins, even the theme from the Flintstones. What do all of these songs have in common? The same chord changes. These chord changes are from I Got Rhythm. In fact, they are called rhythm changes. So along with the blues, any jazz guitarist needs to know these changes because they're used in so many different songs. I mean, there's probably a dozen different jazz classics that use the exact same chord changes or part of them from I Got Rhythm, written by George Gershwin back in 1931, I believe it was. So let's dive into this important song for the jazz guitarist. Take a look at page 1 of the PDF. The standard key for this is B flat. So that's the standard key that you're going to see it in the real book. Now, it's not in the first real book. I believe it's in the third real book, if I remember right. But Cottontail by Duke Ellington, that's in real book 1. Salt Peanuts, that's in real book 2. Anthropology by Charlie Parker, that's in real book 1. All these use the same or variations of this song and their chord changes. So it starts out is a 32 measure song. It is a classic jazz form, A, B, A. The A section is 8 bars, and then that's repeated twice. Okay, so that's 16 bars. Then you have a B section, a bridge for 8 bars. Then it goes back and repeats the A section. All of those 8-bar sections added up to a 32-bar song, a classic jazz form. The tempo on this, man, it ranges from 120 was about the lowest I heard it to way beyond. Usually it's 140, but it'll go even up to 160. Some folks just really are screaming with it as far as the tempo. So it's a rather quick jazz classic, but it only uses a small handful of notes, and it's so catchy. That's what made it so popular in its time and has had such longevity since. Okay, the play-along track that I have that I'm sending along with it is 130 beats per minute. So it's just kind of right in the middle. Not too fast, not too slow. And it's just kind of a generic jazz quartet behind you as you play this. So make sure you have that as you're practicing. All right, flip over the page. All right, let's get into this melody. Now, the melody for this, I prefer to play it in the third position. It's basically kind of a pentatonic scale. All right, so what is this? This starts out with our first finger on the 4th string on that F, G, 3rd finger, B flat with our first finger, 3rd finger with our C. It's even a great pattern. 1st, 3rd, 1st, 3rd. Then it goes down backwards. Then it goes back up again. 2nd on the E flat there. Remember, in the key of B flat, you have B flats and E flats. Back to D. So it's really only about a 6-note melody. Okay, that's the A section there. Look at the bridge section starting in measure 10 there. Starts out on a D with our first finger. Again, we're still in the 3rd position. E natural, not the E flat. So that's with your 3rd finger. Then 1st finger down to the low G on the 5th fret of the 4th string. Remember, you could play that open, but in jazz we try to avoid open strings. We like the warmth of a fingered fret, and so that we tend to avoid the open strings. Now, that's that pattern. Now, if you just move it down 2 frets, down to the first position, or I'm sorry, you can play the same finger pattern there. But if you want to stay in the third, as it's notated measure 14, you would do that C with your third finger on the third string. That would put the D with our first finger, and that F with the first finger there. And then it goes back, we do that A section again, exactly like it was done before. So let me play this melody for you with the track, and then we'll talk about the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. Okay, take a look at the chords. I did this first version of it as it is written, and we did the basic chords with it. So this is where we start. The next version of it, we do it up an octave, and I throw some advanced chords in it. But let's take a look at these basic chords first. Starts off with a B flat 6. I have the chord notations notated there, the chord blocks there. You're up at the 5th position with your second finger on this B flat. Let me just mention, between a B flat 6th and a major 7th, there's a major 7th, there's the 6th. Notice the difference in sound. There's the major 7th, there's the 6th. In jazz, they're used really interchangeably with each other. So I could have just as easily done a major 7th. Now, this was written in the 30s, so this was back when it was a little bit of a simpler harmony with jazz. It wasn't until the 40s and 50s and 60s really that the harmony for jazz started including major 7ths a lot. So in the 30s when this was written, you saw a lot of 6ths, so that's why it's a 6th there. If I wanted to sound a little bit more harmonically rich, I might throw a major 7th in there. But for now, our purposes, we're going to do a B flat 6th. And then a G minor with our second finger. C minor 7th, traditional form. Notice these are comping changes, so I'm not really getting to the upper notes. I'm just kind of stopping at the 3rd or the 2nd string. There's the F7. D minor 7th, G minor. Pay close attention to where that chord block is stopping. So even though a C minor 7th, I could go all the way down to that 1st string, you'll notice it's only written down to that 2nd string, because these would be like an accompaniment type chords. In measure 5, I don't do the 6th, I do the dominant 7th. And then we have an E flat 7, just a little triad, just a little 3-note chord. Little E diminished there, B flat 6th, F7, back to B flat 6th, then an F7 to turn us back around and get us into that. Take a look at measure 5 and 6. That B flat 7 is setting us up for this E flat chord, which is the 4 chord in the key of B flat. Now remember, we talked about the 4 chord having some different variations, and one of the variations is going to the sharp 4 and doing a diminished. You see that all the time in jazz. So if I put that together, that ends up with a very pleasing little lift up to the next chord. All right. Let's go to the bridge. Now, I gave you some chords and some parentheses. We're going to talk about this in a second with the chord substitutions that's involved here. But the chords that are not in parentheses, let's talk about those first. D 7th, and then 2 bars later I have a G7. Here's the G. Remember, it's a movable form. Then I do go back to that 7th form, but this time in C. and then I do back to the other 7th form in F. If you haven't done the fretboard workout series on jazz chords, you might want to consider doing that. That's where all of these chords are kind of laid out. So if some of these forms are unfamiliar to you, that may be a good place to start, is that one. But these are common jazz accompaniment of voicings, just a little 3-note voicing. Now, we've talked about before a good way to accompany. You've got a couple different ways in jazz. I could do kind of a Freddie Green style. Freddie Green was the guitar player for the Count Basie band. He had kind of a chunking technique. We've talked about that before. So I'm just doing a lazy down strum over here, but I'm also pumping with this hand. Do you see kind of the pumping to give a full but a shorter sound, blump, rather than a bop? It's a shorter sound. It almost has a percussive nature to it when you do the Freddie Green chunking. Another way of doing it is to just think more like a horn section would be in a jazz band. So in that type of setting, I would just do kind of little hits and phrases. And remember, we can go back and forth between chords to create some movement. I'm just approaching a chord from a half step below or a half step above. Well, Steve, which way should I do it? Hey, this is jazz. So all of this is fluid. It's not about playing it exact. It's about what can you do with it. So there's a fluidity in jazz that it's not rigid like that. So let's talk about those chords and the chord substitutions that are in the parentheses there. One of the substitutions that we're going to talk about here in a couple of pages over is substituting a half diminished chord for a dominant 7th chord. So here, this D7th, I've turned it kind of into a D9th, but this shape right here is actually an F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Don't let the name fool you. It's just a different substitution that I can do. So it just gives me another option. If I wanted to do that sort of an option, I could. Instead of this G7, or in addition to this G7, I could do a half diminished there, built off of the 3rd of the G, which would be a B half diminished. C, if I do the chord substitution there, I go up to its 3rd, which is an E, and then do a half diminished there. Same thing on the F. I go up to its 3rd, F, G, A, and do a half diminished there. I have to kind of raise up here to find the right half diminished there. So it just gives you another option there. Okay, and then the A section is back like it was before. So we're going to turn on that track again, and we're going to play I'll demonstrate the basic chords. You can play along with me. There you go. That's the basic chords for it. While you've got that there, I want you to look at them just for a second. These are what's called rhythm changes because of I Got Rhythm. So you'll see this type of change, type of progression in so many different songs or portions of it. So look what we have here. Let's just kind of look at it harmonically for a second. The first 2 bars, I'm going from the 1 to the 6 minor, the G minor, to the 2 minor, to the 7. 1, 6, 2, 5, the 5, 7. 1, 6, 2, 5. In the next measure, measure 3, I substitute the 1 for a 3. 6, 2, 5, very common. But look at what happens in measure 5. Now the 1 turns into a 1 dominant 7th, and then it goes to the 4. Then the sharp 4 diminished, then back to 1, 5, 1. That progression. Let's say, okay, that's part of the rhythm changes. The next part is this, what's called a back cycling of dominant 7ths. So take a look at the bridge. Out of the blue, we've got a D7, that's not in the harmony. G7, that's not in the harmony. C7, that's not in the key of B flat. What is it? Well, and then we finally end up with this F7. Okay, so it's called back cycling these dominant 7ths. It's a cycle of dominant 7ths, but you look at it from reverse. So the F7 in measure 16 is the 5 chord in the key of B flat, and that's going to get us back to the verse again in measure 18. Well, what's the 5 chord of the F7? Well, that would be the C7. So the C7 is the 5 of the 5 that's going to the 1. Okay, and then it just keeps back cycling those. What's the 5 of the C? Well, that would be a G7. So that's where the G7, what's the 5 of a G7? The D7, that's where that comes in. So this back cycling of dominant 7th chords is something you see all the time in jazz, a portion of it or all the way back as you're seeing here. And even this type of progression, you see it all the time. So that's what's happening there. I don't want to get too deep into the theory, but I just want you to point that out to you. Also notice in measure 18 and 19, look what happens there. We took our 1, 6 minor, 2 minor, 5, 7, and just for one bar, we did 1, 6 minor, 2 dominant 7th, to the 5. You see how that doesn't even twist the ear. It turns it just a little bit, but it doesn't change the harmony too much as you're doing it. It's just another part of rhythm changes. That I wanted to point that out to you. That's what rhythm changes are. You're going to see that in countless songs, that in some form or other. All right, so let's turn the page. Flip the page over. And now let's take a look at the melody up an octave. Okay, so a lot of times in jazz we'll play it as written, but we'll also on guitar, we have a tendency to, so sometimes it's helpful if we're doing more of a lead thing to play it up an octave. Well, where's a good place to play this at? I messed around with a couple of different places and eventually landed at the 8th position. Starting with the 3rd finger, 1st finger on the 2nd string 8th fret. The B flat is with our pinky on the 2nd string 11th fret. Up to the 1st finger C on the 1st string 8th fret. And back down. E flat, remember B flats and E flats with our pinky there. 3rd finger, back and forth, 1st, 3rd, 1st. Remember the little circled notes underneath there, the circled numbers, those are telling you what fingers you are to use. So I tried to include everything I could. Even when there's a position change, I tried to include the positions in there as well. Okay, so that's the melody. What about the bridge? Well, I generally switch to the 10th position for the bridge. I'm going to do the 1st finger on the D, 3rd finger on that high E natural, then 1st finger, 1st finger or 3rd finger on the G there. The same fingering actually as it was in the lower octave when we did it there. And then just for ease of playing it, I just shifted the whole thing down 2 frets in measure 14 and do the same finger pattern. And then I switch back up to the, and that already has me in the 8th position, and then I'm right there. Okay? And then the rest of the song goes as normal there. Let's take a look at the advanced chords. Let's take a look at what's happened there. I got a little too crazy with this, so y'all can fuss at me, but I wanted to just throw some different things at you on this. So on the first thing I do is on the B flat major 7th, or instead of the B flat 6, you'll notice I switched to a B flat major 7th. Instead of the G minor, I put in a B diminished, which is going to get me to this C minor. And And then I just put in a C sharp diminished to get me up to the D minor there. So instead of going 1, 6, 2, 5, I did 1, diminished, 2, diminished, and that got me to the D minor there. Except you're working your way up the neck. Oh my goodness, what on earth is happening there in measure 3 and 4? What is all this sort of stuff? This is jazz. Remember how I said you can approach a chord from above? Listen to this. That's what all that is. All it is the A flat is just getting us to the G. The D flat is just getting us a half step above the C. The G flat is getting us a half step to the F. The B7 is getting us a half step down to the B flat 7. So listen how great that sounds. Oh man, that's starting to sound like a jazz guitar player right there. That's how jazz guitarists would approach it. Remember, in jazz, the movement is one of the things that we like. The movement is what makes it special. So we don't like static chords. So the movement is preferable. If there's nothing to move, then we just start moving a half step here and there, back and forth, and that tends to give the illusion of movement. So all of that, it sounds like, oh my goodness, I'm doing all these chords. I'm just doing two different forms, really, this form and this form, and I'm going a half step above the target chord each time. All right, so that gets us to measure 5. And then I do a D half diminished, which we're going to talk about that chord substitution in a second. Then instead of the E flat 7, I did an E flat 9. Another E diminished, just like we had before. And then instead of a low B flat, I did a high B flat. B flat 6, 9, and then a F 13th? But Steve, where's the F in that? There is no. It's got everything but the F. Here's the F, but I'm not even playing it. An A, E flat, G, and a D. How can you have a chord without a root? That's what the bass player gets paid for, to play the root all day, all night long. So me as a guitar player, I can play all these upper extensions and it sounds just fine. So I don't always have to be playing the root. And so I get back to the B flat 6, 9 in the first ending, and then what is this? Just a little turnaround. Instead of doing an F7, I did a little F7 sharp 9, F7 sharp 9, flat 9, sorry, sharp 9, flat 9, and then back to where we started at. So let me just play that first 8 bars for you. Back to it. The second ending, I hit the B flat 6, 9, and then I hit a little, look at this chord form. Notice that F 13th, that shape. Here I'm using it just 2 steps down, and it's functioning as an A augmented with a sharp 9. I'll give you a hint. I'm going to use that same form in about a gazillion different ways. It's a very jazz form that you can do a bunch of stuff with. It's just got enough tension and undefinedness that you can use it in a bunch of different places. So here I use the same form. Why bother learning a new form when I don't have to as an A augmented that's going to lead me to the D. Uh-oh, wait a minute, look at that first chord of the bridge. That's the same chord, just moved down. Now it's a D 13th without the root on it. It's like the F 13th moved down 3 frets. How I play that is with the F sharp. I'm barring my second finger over 2 strings, the second and third string, and then I have my pinky out here for this. And so I'm just going to release that pinky to get that D 9th. And then I switch my fingers around where I'm doing second finger, third finger, fourth finger, second finger on the F sharp, third finger on the C, pinky on that E, because I'm going to eventually go there. Listen to how all that sounds. Remember, movement. Movement is the key. I could have just played a D7 for 2 bars there, but what fun is that? Hey, let's keep movement up. G 13th. I bar it back down to catch the G there. Then I just do the inside 3. So you hear the little melody that's happening there? Sorry. If I put the chords with them. Hey, I'm creating a little melody, a little inner melody there while I'm comping. Oh, why ruin a good thing by going somewhere else? Let's do exactly the same pattern. Measure 14, you'll notice that's the same as measure 10, just move down 2 frets. F 13th, F augmented, I'm just moving that third finger back down a half step to catch the augmented. And then just when there wasn't enough tension, I throw in an F13 flat 9, and then, oh, what, a G13 flat 9, what is that? That's, don't worry about the name, listen. It's just moving, it's such a tense, unresolved chord, it almost kind of functions like a diminished chord. If I move it up 3 half steps, it's kind of the same thing. And that's all I'm doing there. So listen how that bridge sounds. Let me back up to that second ending. What a hip sounding chord progression that I've created over those back-cycled 7th chords over that bridge. Got to think like a guitar player, think like a jazz player. It's about what I can do with it. Hey, look at the next verse section at 18. I've done some stuff low, so now I thought I would give you something high. Okay, so I'm doing the B flat 6-9, measure 18, B diminished. I'm climbing up. Hey, there's that C7th instead of the C minor. C sharp diminished. Do you see what I'm doing? How many ways can I keep climbing? And then, what on earth? A G13 flat 9, way up here in the stratosphere. And then I'm going to work my way down. Oh man, come on, that's some jazz chords there. B flat 6-9, measure 18, B diminished, C 7th, C sharp diminished, D minor 7th, and then G 13th flat 9, C 6-9, F 13th flat 9. Let me give you a hint. It doesn't matter what those upper extensions are. I could play the same thing and it sounds, I could play all 6-9 chords and it sounds just the same. Listen. That worked. Hey, what if I played it as written? What if I did all of these 13ths and I just went all the way down? Let's see how that sounds. All that to say, it doesn't matter. So much of this, don't try and analyze, oh my goodness, all the intricate harmonies of it. Sometimes it's just a collection of notes that you're using to get from one place to the other, and it doesn't matter whether it's this or this. It's just a passing chord. You're only there for a second, so it doesn't matter what all those colors are, because you're just using it as a point of movement. Okay, so if I played 18, well, let's get down to measure 22. The F sharp or F minor 7th, I just do a little bar there. B flat 9, hey, that's kind of the same our magic little form there. E flat 13th, E flat minor 6th. Wow, it's the same form. How many uses can I use out of this one form? C minor 9, F 13th flat 9. Hey, it's just that chord, but with your second finger not barred. All right, so we're going to turn the track on. I'm going to play the melody through one time, and then I'm going to play the chords through after that. lots of fun. Lots of fun with that. Enjoy going through those different chord forms. Learn some few new chord forms. Hey, look at the bottom of page 5. Let's talk about some of the chord substitutions that you use in this song, and it applies in all of jazz, really. One of the most fun chord substitutions that we can do is with a dominant 7th chord. We can do a little trick where we go up to the 3rd of the dominant 7th chord and then play a minor 7th flat 5, or a half diminished. It's the same chord, and that is a good substitution for it. So, for example, in a C7th, think of the notes that are involved: a C, E, G, and a B flat. Okay, well, if I add a color tone on that, it would be like a C ninth, E, G, C, E, G, B flat, D. Well, what notes are in an E minor 7th flat 5 going up to the 3rd and then building a minor 7th flat 5, or half diminished on that? It would be an E, G, B flat, and D. Do you see how 3 of the 4 notes in the chord are identical? And remember, I was saying how you don't even need the root sometimes because the bass is always playing the root. So an E minor 7th flat 5 is basically just a C7 or C ninth without the C. That's why this chord substitution works so well. So just think of that. Anytime you see a dominant 7th chord, you can go up to its 3rd and throw a half diminished, and it'll work well as a chord, and it'll also work well soloing. It's a good, colorful way to do some soloing. All right, so flip the page to page 6. Now, I could have written out a whole chart for you of make you figure out all this sort of stuff, but instead I just wrote it down there. There's just 12 of them, okay? So take a look at the top of page 6 there. For an A7th, you can substitute in a C sharp minor 7 flat 5. That's the 3rd of the A. Then you just make the C sharp. And I wrote them all out there. And for a G7, it's a B half diminished. I know it seems like a lot, but it's all right there. There's not any other ones other than those. Okay, it's just 12 keys, so I just wrote them all out for you there. So if you need it, there it is. Take a look at the example that I have there of the bridge. Okay, we talked about D7th, but another option for that D7th is to play this F sharp half diminished being notated with a circle and a slash through it. Now, when we did this in the advanced chords a few pages back, I said that was a D ninth. So is it a D ninth or an F sharp minor 7 flat 5? The answer is it's both. It's both. These are just collections of tones, and you can make them work in all kinds of different settings. So in this one, I wrote it as an F sharp half diminished. Over a G7, I can use a B half diminished. So there's another half diminished form there. There's C7, there's another half diminished form. I don't know all that many. I play guitar for a living, and I know about 3 half diminished forms. Okay, so I'm show you. There's this shape, and then this shape. One with a 5th string root, one with a 4th string root. Now there's a couple others, but that's about it. 3 or 4 of them. That's all I know. So anyway, learn how that does. So every time you see a C7th, you can play an E minor 7 flat 5. Ooh, what was that? That sounds brilliant over a C7. What kind of fancy lick was that? It was an E minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. Worked well over that C7, didn't it? I didn't have to think of some big fancy lick. All I had to do was play that. And it sounds like I know what I'm doing. That's some of the secrets, okay? Hey, let's learn a lick, okay? Look at the bottom half of page 6. Gerry Mulligan is a Barry sax player. He died several years back, but back in the 60s and 50s, 60s, 70s, he played with everybody and was one of the most melodic jazz soloists to ever play jazz. And he played an odd instrument, a baritone saxophone, not an alto or a tenor like you would normally see. So I went back and I found a solo that Gerry Mulligan did on I Got Rhythm. And I put the link actually in the PDF, so you should be able to click that link and actually hear his solo, and it's actually transcribed out too, so it's really cool. But we're going to steal a lick from his solo. So the lick is this. It's the bottom of page 6. So it's outlining basically kind of a B flat chord, going from the 2nd of the B flat, which is a C, D flat, sliding up to that 3rd, or hammering on up to the 3rd. Then I do a pentatonic form, and then I do this little back and forth. Now you can just go, is how Gerry Mulligan plays it. What that next to last note is really doesn't matter. Is how he does it. And I kind of typically slide between the two. So where would I use this? Well, you could use it over any of the B flat 7th chords or any of the 7th chords. So if I put that lick in context, look at the top of page 7. This is measures 5 through 8 of Gerry Mulligan's I Got Rhythm solo. So I wrote it out there just in case you might be interested in it. If you're interested in it, I put the notation down there. And it ends up on our lick of the week. All right, and there it is. So there it is in context. So that lick, and look at what's happening there. It's going from the 2nd up to the 3rd of the dominant 7th chord. Well, I can do that, or up to the 3rd of the chord. I can really do that on any major or dominant 7th chord. So I put together a little sample solo here on page 7, just kind of using that lick. Sliding up to the 3rd, ending up on the root. Don't just learn one lick for one chord. Learn how you can apply it to a bunch of different chords. Just wandering around there. Here I did a little back and forth. This time I did it on the F instead of the B flat. I'm going back and forth. Okay, and then here I did Gerry Mulligan's. I put Gerry Mulligan's lick in there. Okay, so that's the first 8 bars of the sample solo. And then when we're going into the bridge, hey, I thought I would do my lick in the key of the chords there. So if the first chord's a D7, so I'm going to do my lick on the 2nd of the D, which is an E, going up to the 3rd. So what am I doing there? Okay, a little variation there at the end. Hey, I can do the same lick. Now I'm going up to the 3rd of the G, but I'm on a different string set, so it looks a little bit different. Do you hear how that's the same lick? So it's good not to learn just a lick in one string set, but learn it on other string sets and how you can apply it to different songs or different chords. Hey, let's see if we can do it. Flip the page. If we do on page 8 there, now I'm up to the 3rd of the C7 and I play my little lick there. And instead of going up, I went down just to show you how you could vary it a little bit. And then I'm back, I'm going to do the little lick again, this time spin out of it a little bit differently. So if I put all of that together, let me play that solo. In fact, let's just play with the track and you listen for how this ends. Let me just talk you through the last little verse section at measure 18. Let's see. Here we go, measure 22. A hip little way to move around these chords. Okay, I won't go through all of that. It's all notated there. Just learn whatever you want to off that. Let me play the sample solo for you, and you can hear how this works. 1, 2, 3, 4. bit of I Got Rhythm, the sample solo there. As far as what's important over those first 4 bars, really, in the first 4 bars of the verse, I can really play a B-flat pentatonic scale. And it's going to sound fine, a B-flat major pentatonic. G minor pentatonic, B-flat major, same thing. Okay, but when I hit measure 5, it changes tonalities. It goes to a B-flat 7, so I try to hit the A-flat 7, which is the 7 of the B-flat 7, because that's going to lead me to the 3rd note, the G of the E-flat 7 that's coming. So of all of that, I can mumble around on the pentatonic scale for the first 4 bars, and measure 5, I'm going to go out of my way to try and hit an A-flat, because that's going to forecast that I'm going to the G of the E-flat. And other than that, I can go back to my pentatonic scale and it works fine. When I get to the bridge, I can do all of my tricks there. There you go. Learn the lick, learn how you can play it on different string sets, and apply it in different things. I can spin out of it multiple different ways. All right, let's get to the solo guitar arrangements. I included 2 solo guitar arrangements of this. Now, usually I would do kind of a fingerstyle method, but I thought I would try something different, a more of a triad approach to it. So instead of fingerstyle, I'm going to be with a pick. I got a regular old, my regular old Jim Dunlop nylon. I got an 88. I had a guitar instructor, Jack Skiles, an elderly man. He was probably close to in his 80s by the time I took lessons from him when I was in high school. And he kind of played a real old-timey approach to accompaniment. And so I tried to kind of emulate some Jack Skiles' quick little triads in how he would approach that. So take a look at the basic solo guitar arrangement. Let me play it for you first, and then we will. Then I'll talk you through it. So let me just play it for you first. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It does it again. Bridge. Kind of a triad version of that, a little kind of an ode to my old teacher Jack Skiles, who used to play that way. All right, so what's happening here at the beginning? I got a B flat triad. I just put my pinky down to catch that G minor. Move my other fingers around it. And look at the notation there. I tried to, there's not room enough for me to notate every fingering, so what I usually do is I put just the bottom numbers are the notes, the bass notes, the lowest note in whatever triad. The upper number, that would be the finger that I'm used for the highest note. So usually if you can figure out the lowest note and the highest note, then the middle note pretty much kind of takes care of itself. But that's how that's what's being notated in there, in case you might be confused on that. C minor 7th, well, other than that, that's an E flat triad if you want to think of it that way. F9, or C minor 7th if you want to think of it that way. D minor. Now here I do second finger, first finger, third finger, then it just falls back. You can play that with your third finger or first finger, either way. Now here I have a bar, a B flat 7, add my third finger down, and then I do that same thing up at the 11th position. So it's the same pattern. I do it at the 6th, do it at the 11th. Bar it down. Have I got that E flat right underneath my fingers? Back to the 8th position. Bar on that first finger with my third finger. Back to the bar. So that's the beginning. When we get to the bridge, I'm doing a really typical jazz lick. Okay, and here I'm just working my way up. I've got my pinky on the D, first finger on the F sharp, the third and the root, okay? And I'm going to work my way up on that second string. Second finger, third finger. I can slide my third finger up if you want to do that, or you can do both on the 4. You'll notice I didn't put a D7 chord shape right there because it's not really a chord, it's just 2 notes. Then I did a little G7 triad. Just add your second finger down and you kind of make this sort of shape. Don't even have to move your hand. Now I do the same thing 2 frets down. Same thing. And then it basically does that A section again. So that's the I Got Rhythm solo, the basic arrangement of that using these triads approach to it. All right, let's take a look at the advanced arrangement. I know I've had you for a long time, so let me get to the advanced arrangement. All right, what I did here, thinking like Jack Skiles would think it, he played things very aggressively with his picking, and so I thought I would try that, and I threw a little intro on it, which is very Jack Skiles-esque. Very Jack Skiles. So let me play this for you, and then I'll explain what I'm doing here. There you go. A little bit of an I Got Rhythm in kind of a style of my old teacher there. Do you see? Do you kind of get the feel of it? So you have to use the pick to get kind of the jumpy bounciness of it all. Very Jack Skiles. He kind of had that. I always thought his playing was kind of happy and bouncy, and that's part of it. Now, George Van Epps used to play like that. George Barnes played like that. It's kind of an older style of playing, which I think sometimes works really, really cool. So let me show you what I'm doing here. At the beginning, the intro, C minor ninth, a 7 sharp 9. Now you could do the augmented if you want to, but I kind of like just the sharp 9 to kind of give some tension there. And then I have to bar down with my second finger, sliding up to that D minor 7. So there's a little, your picking is always going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, da, da, do, D, da, da, do, da, do, da, da. So there's this always duck happening with your picking, okay? And you have to play it a little bit aggressively. You can't, I find that I just can't play it soft. I've got to kind of play it aggressively. So we do some octaves here, and then I do the verse. Instead of playing it all together, I kind of offset the chord. So you have the B flat 6. Then for the G minor 7th, I'm just kind of having a C minor 7th, F 11th. That way I get the bass note and the chord, bass note and the melody note in there. And it almost kind of sounds like little punches at the end. The D minor 11th. That sounded a little bit more rich to me than the D minor 7th, having the D minor 11th in there. G minor 7th. C minor, and then a little triad F7 there, and it kind of breaks the pattern right there. So those 8 bars are measure 9. This is the same pattern that we did in the basic version. A full C minor 9th there, F9, and then I throw the little F sharp 9, F sharp flat 9 that we did in our advanced chords. I included some of those too. Okay, now the bridge, where we were doing just a 2-note thing in the basic arrangement, here I fill that out. And I start out with a D 9th with this large fingering there. May be awkward if you haven't done this shape before, but it's a great shape in jazz. To have a dominant 7th, dominant 9th with the root on the top. And I offset that. And I'm going to create this little inner line that's moving up. Now, the one chord that's tricky in that, my first finger is sliding underneath my second finger right there. Then I have to break it and switch up to the 10th position. And then just to keep that inner line movement going, I do a little G7, G 9th, and then I'm going to move it that little line back. So that little inner line's going. First time it was going up. And it goes down. That's what makes jazz jazz. It's just these little inner lines that are moving. Do the same trick again in measure 18. Go back and do the verse again. Little short stabs on those upper notes. And then I do, there's a little tag that you often hear on this. Hey, that's the same shape. How many ways can I use this shape? In this shape, now it's a G, it's functioning as a G suspended 7 with a flat 9. But look, it's the same shape we've used in a dozen different places. Just like we did before. And then here I do the old Count Basie ending. Learn that. As a jazz player, you're going to have to play it 1,000 times. You can learn any song and you can end with that. Made famous by Count Basie. And then just to top it off a little bit more, a little bit of cherry on top of the icing there, I did just a simple little lick. Here it is. It sounds more impressive than it is. Chet Atkins would do these type of licks all the time, where it's just a finger pattern, and it sounds like this flurry of notes, but it's just a finger pattern. 3rd finger, 4th finger, 3rd finger, 1st. But I'm doing a hammer on and pull off all to them. That's a lick. Hey, then I'm going to do the same thing on the 2nd string. Same thing on the 3rd string. Same thing on the 4th string. 5th string. Now on the 6th string, I have to vary it up a little bit, to where I end up at the root. Sounds more impressive than it is. It's really just the same finger pattern over and over again. And then we end off on a B flat 6/9 chord. Woo! We have covered a lot of material. I don't want you to get overwhelmed with it. If you're kind of a basic intermediate player, don't worry about all this fancy stuff that we're doing here at the end. You just focus on learning the melody. Can you play the melody in the 3rd position? Maybe even up an octave. Work on those basic chords. Just grab what you can. Don't look at this and go, oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed, I can't learn a thing. No, pick out your 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can learn and work on and incorporate those into your playing. And then as you develop, you can start to do the more advanced things. If the melody is easy for you, then go ahead and look at some of these other arrangements. The basic arrangement, and then if you want to try the advanced arrangement, Try that as well. The main thing is don't get intimidated by it. Grab what you can, learn these concepts, and you'll find as we go through these different songs, it's going to eventually get to be a library of jazz knowledge that you're learning. Thanks for being a part of this lesson. We've got great music ahead. Learn all that you can from it. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Keep up the great work.